So am I audible to people online? Welcome assalam ji. चलिए जी इंशाल्लाह शुरू करते हैं. बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. So this is a course on artificial intelligence and applications, and I have also titled it AI for all. So it means that it'll cover so many things. So it's AI already has a broad spectrum, but I will try to even make it broader by also discussing policies. Rethinking means that people coming from different organizations, how they can actually realize AI-enabled systems. And definitely we are also going to go through all the algorithms that are required to basically learn artificial intelligence. So for this week, we shall be discussing just how to define our AI, because it's so broad that you will find so many definition of AI. So it's very difficult to actually define AI, okay? And you'll find like people are just using one definition or the other. I have selected one which perhaps will lead us throughout this course, that okay, because this is how we are defining AI, and then we shall be covering every aspect of that definition. And also because in this course there are even people who have already PhDs and masters and with a lot of experience. So we shall also be touching the latest trends, so that there is something for everyone in this course. So right from the first lecture, we will see what are the latest trends in AI and how do we find out what these trends are. So this is also important, that where do you find what are the trends in AI, and why everybody is talking about AI? Because of its potential. So what is the potential of AI? It's local potential, global potential. So we'll do that. And then a bit philosophical discussion, that how does AI work? Once I want to make it work for myself, how does it work? And then definitely we'll get to some technical aspect of AI, like mostly AI is to solve these three problems or type of algorithms: classification, regression, and nowadays generative AI is very famous. It's just taking over almost everything we know. So continuously we will be spending time on generative AI throughout the course. And then I want to give you my personal background, so that you know that who I am in this bigger domain, and what my personal perspective has always been on AI, and how I have practiced AI professionally, from academic perspective and also from the industrial perspective. And then finally we'll go and do the course outline, the learning. And so it's not fixed, course outline is not fixed. I may be just changing it here and there, so that seeing that how everything is moving. So it'll just a bit keeping it a little bit flexible, but we will be covering three aspects. One is academic aspect, the other one is strategy aspect, and the third one is the startup or the commercial aspect. So we will just always, in every class, we will have these three aspects, so these three different views of AI, that what people are doing commercially, what people are doing, the countries are doing, what are their strategies, why don't we have a strategy. And it's not about the countries, it is about organization, and it is about even individual. Because AI is going to affect you, your life, your kids' life. Okay? So you got to also make a strategy for yourself, for your kids, that this is, and once you make a strategy, then you have to spend your time and resources and money on it. Okay, whether it's for your own education or the education of your kids. So we are going to do that. So with this, let's just understand what is artificial intelligence. Okay? So I really like this guy who is Professor Patrick Winston. He was a professor at MIT, and he was the director of their AI center. Okay, so he died like a few years back, but I really liked his definition, the way he has defined AI, and there are reasons, and I'll be telling you those reasons. So he says that AI is all about problems that you want to solve that involves thinking, perception, and action. Like where you're required to think, and you got to perceive, and you got to do something about them. So it is about that. So AI, if there is a problem which does not require any thinking, so it means you don't need to solve it using artificial intelligence. Okay? A problem that has been solved and there is exact way of solving it. So you don't really require to use AI. For example, a differential equation. You don't really a constant coefficient differential equation. Though it's not that you cannot solve it using AI, but you don't really want to get into that. Okay, so that requires just thinking, perception, and action. Those are the problems that you want to solve. And then he says, how do you solve those problems? By making models. Right? So very central to artificial intelligence is modeling. That how do you model for the class of problems that you are trying to handle. So you create a model. So it is going from down to upward, his definition. That's something also I like. Like it says, problem that involves thinking, perception, and action. And to solve a problem, you make models. Model of the problem. And to make a model, first you need to do a mathematical representation of the problem. Why? Because usually the problem you are trying to solve relates to our life, to us. Okay? We can see, we can hear, and we can sense. Okay? I can see things, so I can detect, oh, there is an accident, oh, there is a car. Okay, here is the road, here's a signal. I can see. I can hear things, so if somebody calls me, I'll look back. And so I can sense whether something is hot, I'm getting a heart attack. so you can sense. So because you are solving real life problems for making a computer, because computer can't see, computer can't hear, computer can't sense. So you've got to make it see, you've got to make it sense, you've got to make it hear. And to do all of this is very complex thing that you got to represent something which is in real life, and that is a challenge. How to represent something which is occurring in real life, and you got to represent it as a mathematical problem to be solved by a computer. Okay? So representation is again very central, and the second week we are just going to spend time on representation, that how you represent things, how do you understand, okay, because we are representing it like this, so this is the background we require to solve a problem. Okay, so representation for the data and representation for the model is very key to artificial intelligence. And once you are representing, only then you will find out, if you rightly represent, you will find out constraints. Okay, so because whenever you are trying to solve a complex problem, there are a set of constraints. For example, if from here I want to go to Faisal Mosque. Okay, I have a distance formula. I can exactly figure out that this is, the shortest distance is through the distance formula. But I know there are roads, there are traffic, and the traffic conditions, and there's so many constraints. And in those constraints, I got to basically find a solution. So constraint becomes very important. If you miss a constraint, means your solution will be wrong, will not be optimal, may have flaws. So constraints are to be exposed. So this is also very important in artificial intelligence. So constrained, exposed by representations that support models that are targeted at problems involving thinking, perception, and action. And once you have done all of this, then you need to actually write algorithms. You got to actually solve it. You actually got to code it, and you actually have to implement it on a computer. So this is how this whole definition by Professor Patrick Winston, it goes from bottom to up, that it is basically algorithms that you are devising by knowing that these are the constraints, and then rightly representing the problem and the data mathematically, making a model, okay, to solve a real life problem. Okay. So this is how the definition of AI works. I've just written it for people to read by themselves, that this is how you go from down to up and then up to down. So this is the guy, and he teaches, he used to teach, and now he died, a very enthusiastic guy for AI. So he was director of MIT Artificial Intelligence Lab, dies at the age of 76. But there is something he told us, and something so amazing, something so important for us to understand, not as student but as a nation. Okay, what he told us. Let me just play that. I hope that we will be able to play it. No. So the voice, you are not getting the voice. So perhaps.
Or a relative asks you what you do at MIT. The right knee-jerk reaction is to say, we don't have to build models. That's what we do at MIT. We build models using differential equations. We build models using probabilities. We build models using physical and computational simulations. But whatever we do, we build models. Even in humanities class, MIT approach is to make models that we can use to explain the past, predict the future, understand the subject, and control the world. That's what MIT is about.
Okay. So he's saying if somebody asks you what you do at MIT, just tell them we make models. That's all we do. Even in humanity class, we make models. And this is interesting. We make models that we can use to explain the past, predict the future, understand the subject, and control the world. So they have been like using these models. So sometimes I believe that whatever is happening around us, even in our country, so we are just a model for them. So to basically excite, and they precisely know how the people would behave. Okay? So they are so good at modeling. Even once I was at Georgia Tech, they were modeling to withdraw the troops in Persian after Persian Gulf War. And it was so perfect model that they precisely knew that this is where they are going to refuel, this is what will move first, generating a complete schedule. So they first make models, they solve it, and then they basically execute to make sure that they optimally solve a problem and without causing any damage or harm to the troops that they were retreating from a war zone. Okay? So this is very important, that the modeling is only not specific to problems that are in engineering, even in humanities. Even you can make models of organization, of countries, of societies, of people, of colors, of caste, and so you can make models of almost everything. And then if you have the right model, okay, then you can basically control the world, basically, or control whatever you are trying to control, whether it's a plant, or it's a nation, or it's whatever. So modeling is central to AI, and even you can solve riddles of our childhood, and that's how I want to start. So we all remember this riddle, which says that there is a farmer who wants to bring a lion, a goat, and a grass across the river. Okay? And we have solved it so many times in our childhood that the boat is tiny and it can only carry one passenger at a time. Okay? So if he leaves the lion and the goat, the lion will eat the goat. If he leaves the goat and the grass, the goat will eat the grass. So how can he bring all three safely across the river? So this is just childhood. So this is a problem that requires thinking, because if you don't think, you cannot solve this riddle. So it requires thinking, perception, action, model, representation. So it requires everything. So amazingly, we'll find that people have actually modeled it. Okay, so let me show you a model that people have actually modeled this problem. That this is where you have this line which shows one side of the river, and what you have on the right is on the other side of the river. And so you basically generate all the possibilities. Through an algorithm, you generate all the possibilities. Only two can go back and forth. And so you start everybody, this line and everybody on the left side of the river, which is you have the W I'm using for grass and goat and loin and the farmer. And then he starts generating possibilities. Okay? Just exhaustive. This is called exhaustive possibilities without even thinking. Okay, this is a possibility. So set of twos, this is a possibility, this is a possibility, this is a possibility. Okay, and then ultimately right away he is finding out, oh, these two possibilities are not possible because the lion will eat the goat or the goat will eat the grass. So only there is one possibility which is possible. And then from that possibility he is generating two more possibilities. And from that possibility so every time exhaustively you are generating all the possibilities, and finally you will find that there are two paths to get to the solution. And so you say, okay, so you've solved the problem. Okay. So it's representation, modeling, and a problem that requires thinking. You can almost solve any problem. May it be a riddle, may it be something like we used to play if we have some time to spend. Let's So even here, if you just now start thinking, yeah, I think we can just play this as well. So what you need to do is, every time you generate all possibilities, and then make a graph and see where you win. And then you go back. Okay, this is the winning. So you go back and track, this is what should I do. Okay? Then again, somebody now is playing with you. So again, so at whatever stage you are, you always just generate all the possibilities, find out where you win, and then you go back and opt for that. So just keep doing that. So because you have almost infinite computational power, so you can actually beat anybody. And this is what has happened in 1997. Once this IBM Deep Blue actually beat the world champion, the chess world champion. They were like 6 games, 3-1 for the champion, and 3 draws and 2 wins by the IBM, the computer. So this is, you can find this thing. So this is the guy who is actually seeing what the computer is doing, and he'll just do that. And he'll think, and then he'll make a move, because, and the computer, what it can just figure out that all the possibilities, and then going down and saying this is the winning, and then going back and just making a move. So because it was a IBM supercomputer, so it has, enough computational power to generate all the possibilities. So you can just, and AI comes once you are generating all the possibilities. Okay, it becomes usually an NP-hard problem. It just grows exponentially, and then you need smarter algorithms. Okay, you need smarter algorithms that you cannot just do an exhaustive, search. You're going to just generate all possibilities. It's so difficult because you cannot generate, and then you got to find out that what are the ways to actually find a solution to a problem. Okay, so this is how the AI is defined. And as I showed you, that you can just do almost anything, controlling nations to playing, solving riddles. You can do it through AI, anything which requires thinking, perception, and action. So you can model it, you can do the right representation, you can develop algorithms, and you can solve the problem. Okay. So once we talk about AI, so many branches. So people say AI is a cluster of techniques or subjects like machine learning, natural language processing, expert system, machine vision, speech processing, planning, robotics. So there's so many things which comes under AI. So even now in Pakistan, we have a bachelor degree in AI as well. Okay, because it's such a subject where you can teach so many things. So there is also a bachelor degree. So now you can just imagine that 4 years you can just learn AI. Definitely you got to build the foundation, but then definitely you can do your specialization, and so its spectrum is so wide. Okay, so usually people say, okay, it's AI, then within AI is ML, within ML is deep learning. So there are different views, so I just want to highlight all of them so that we know that once we say AI is not machine learning. This is important. So machine learning is a subclass of artificial intelligence. There are many algorithms which are not really machine learning algorithms, okay, which require like thinking, perception, action, but they are not AI. You are not training them. Like there are 2 riddles we solve, okay. So they are not kind of machine learning. We have not made them to learn anything. We're just generating all possibilities and then just traversing and finding the right solution. So AI is bigger. Machine learning is a subclass, and then deep learning is even a subclass, and even the generative AI is kind of a deep learning. Within the deep learning, you have now generative AI. So and then so many another view where you see that it has like number of aspects, technology, landscape of AI. Where you can use it in healthcare or in machine learning. So it's like they have more exhaustive list of the thing that you can basically do. Neural networks is one, and pattern recognition is another one. And usually every topic is a course. It's a graduate level course. So it's like very vast. So we just need to make sure that we get a sense of AI so that we can just learn by ourselves. Then we want to get into a specific problem to solve a specific problem. Then there is yet another view of AI, which is from the value perspective. What AI algorithms gives you value, and this goes from an AI only describing what is happening. Okay, just intelligent enough to find out that there is a car, there is a suspicious action. So it's just only a descriptive. Diagnostic is it is finding out the problem. This is the problem. Predictive is it can predict that this will happen. This problem will happen. So this is going to happen if you keep going on this route. You may get a heart attack. You may get diabetic after so much time if you just have the same lifestyle. And there is prescriptive, which says if you do this, this will not happen. Okay, so this is the most valued AI, which is the prescriptive AI, where we say that you have a prescriptive AI that it can prescribe that because it has done all of this. Okay, it has done this, it has done this, it has predicted that's what is going to happen. And now it is saying, oh, you do this, 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 and that can save you from this to happen. So from the value perspective is this. Now, very important that how do we find out the latest trends in AI? Because that is something we must need to learn. And because I'll be coming to this part where I was part of the Prime Minister Task Force, and there I started figuring out that how do we find out where the rest of the world is moving? What are the technologies other people are focusing? And there I started reading all these reports. Okay, so these are the reports that people write. Sometimes we have to pay to get this report. But the most important of these are the Gartner hype cycle. This is a report which is published every year by Gartner. Okay, and they have this hype cycle. They say every technology would start here. If you really, really want to focus on something which has not taken over, nobody actually knows about it, you find what is happening here. Okay, where it is plateau will be here. It is innovation trigger, like innovation has just triggered. Okay, and now it is taking attention. People are paying attention to it. Okay? This is 2019. Once there was adaptive machine learning, emotional machine learning, AI platform as a service, and then it just keeps getting on this hype cycle, and this is called peak of inflated expectation. Always people would expect more from a technology than what it really is offering. Okay, like generative AI, people have so much expectation from this technology. So now it has reached to the peak. So there was a time once the 5G technology was at the peak, like biochips, and then people start losing expectations because this touched the reality, start touching the reality. Oh, it cannot do this. Oh, I thought it can do this. Oh, it cannot do this. So once it starts touching the reality, it goes down. Okay? And then this is trough of disillusionment, and this is again then it rise and it gets to the plateau of productivity when it's become a product. It's part of devices, part of your mobile phone, it's part of your Word, PowerPoint, it's just part of the products, so it becomes a stable. So us from Pakistani perspective, mostly we start focusing on a technology once it is here, mostly. Okay, once it is mature, say, oh, we have heard about deep learning. Okay, so once it has actually, if we really, really want to bet, this is the time to bet on a technology. As a nation, as an organization, as a researcher, once it has just triggered and people have started talking about it. So let me just take you to so this is 2019 and today is 2023, and let's see what is happening here. Okay? So what is happening here is it says cyber security mesh architecture, whatever it is, it has just started taking over. Okay? Then generative cyber security AI is something which people are now started paying attention, that you can use generative AI to do cyber security. Okay? Neuro-symbolic AI. Okay, you got to find out what this neuro-symbolic AI is. Okay, so people are talking about that you can use neuro-symbolic to basically kind of make a model of a problem using this methodology. casual AI, AI simulation, reinforcement learning, AI trism, okay, AI augmented, but generative AI is at the peak, and we know generative AI has taken the peak. Another important thing what you need to see is the color of the dot. Right? Somewhere you see a black dot, you see a blue dot, and you see a triangle. Okay, so let me go back and tell you the consequence, the importance of this. This is something which has very rapidly just got to the hype. Okay, it has taken only the blue dot is people would not get really actually any time to learn and to exercise, because the people like they have just taken it to the peak in 2 to 3 years. Okay. And this is where it is taking some technology 5 to 10 years, and here is something which has taken, it is still there, people are they have expectation, and this is something which has gone obsolete. There was expectation and people are no more just focusing on it. So as you can see, that's just, and this is something which has been here for last 10 years, just keeping its position, that people are still hopeful. This was with the AI as well, and I'll be telling you how that it has taken AI like 30-35 years to actually taken off. So and this is also the assignment which I want to give you, that I want you to write a short note on AI on the Gartner hype cycle for 2023. So I want you to, all these terms, we know we have not heard these terms, okay? Most of these terms we have not even heard. I want you to just go Google it, okay? Spend time, Google it, find whatever you learn from these terms, and then in your own words, okay? In your own words, write a paragraph about each, about 200 to 400 words paragraph, about it, what you understood. If you have not understood, you will understand something. Okay, perhaps it is, but don't copy anything. Just try to make a comprehension that perhaps this is what AI augmented, for example, AI augmented is at the peak. What AI augmented is. Okay, so you will find out. I've made sure that you will find out on the internet about almost everything that we are talking to you here about, because people are really concerned about the security management, and because if you are making AI to take decisions, you want it to be explainable, that why AI is telling you this. Model ops, AI application security, people are really concerned about privacy, that you don't want your data to be revealed, to be used by AI models because it's your data. So people are really focusing on these things. Neurosymbolic AI, but this is interesting. This is the augmented AI. So people believe that you cannot just blindly trust what AI is telling you. Right? So you've got to have a human intervention. So it says augmented AI allows you to conduct a human review of machine learning systems to guarantee precision. That you just don't blindly believe that what AI is saying. So you go and you have a human intervention as well. So this has become a subject. I know Amazon has this as a service. They provide you, once you are using their APIs, they have a provision that how you can basically use the AI algorithms of Amazon as an augmented AI, that how it exposes the results so that you can review and audit and say, okay, yes, I'm happy, and then you go and move forward on this. Okay? So these are the latest trends.
It doesn't belong to quality assurance function. Because in software, normally we do testing and then we assure its quality.
I think it is a little more than that. Usually once we are doing software testing, so we have test vectors, and we know that if we give this, I should see this. If I'm not seeing this, it means there is a problem. I think it's a little more than that, because once you are using AI, you say, okay, generate a letter to my senior asking him this, or on this topic just write something. So it is a little more than that. Perhaps it's not that you can just use the software quality engineering things to do the augmented AI. Okay, it's perhaps a lot more than that. There's no functional problem. There's no functional problem, but it is very interesting research like what's happened in MIT. Once they have these machine learning models which can just classify images out of 200,000 images, they can put them in their respective right classes, And the group was just trying to make that algorithm fail by adding the minimum noise in those images and making the machine learning algorithm to totally fail, right? And then they published, and people really got worried about it, that you can have such established, neural network models, and now somebody is coming and saying, look, we have made it fail. Because the intention was to fail the model. So, and then this is what really attracted me once I was started working for the task force. We saw that AI, and it was in 2019 once we started looking at AI, and we saw that AI is going to have a global impact of $15.7 trillion. And this was my argument to the government at that time. Let's only focus on 0.1% of this. Only 0.1% of this target market as Pakistan. Okay? Even 0.1% is $15.7 billion. Like, you can make by 2030 $15.7 billion. And I said, let's spend only 1% of $15.7 billion. Okay? And we can guarantee you that it comes out to be 40 billion rupees or so. It's not a big amount that you spend as a nation on this. And then we started making all the programs. And we said, we can promise you this money, $15.7 billion, just AI bringing to Pakistan by 2030. Okay? So I'll be showing you all the programs that we created, the PC ones we developed. And so it has humongous potential, absolutely no doubt about it. And we'll keep seeing that how people are reaping this potential. Why nations are so just throwing in money into AI. Almost every country on this. And so once we say GDP impact, it is on the productivity, it is on the personalization, it is on the time saved, it is on the improvement of the quality. This is so many things which they count once they say this is the trend. And this map shows that where they are more scope of AI, which is the target market, so to say. So if you're developing AI, what market you should focus? So as you can see, North America has a $3.7 trillion market, then Northern Europe, the China, the developed Asia, and then Asia Pacific regions. And so once you are at the national level in the policy phase, so you just start seeing these. So now, so we're talking about the market size and stuff. So this is the reason that almost every country on the globe has an AI strategy. And this is the second thing we need to focus as Pakistan, because many countries are like giving a lot of money for startups based on AI. Every country almost, the policy of every country is to attract AI talent. Okay, attract AI talent. Except in Pakistan, we say push AI talent to the world. Okay, train and push them, so that they can bring some dollars. But almost every country says attract world AI talent. That people are so anxious to offer positions to people who have background in AI. Right? So this is almost the trend in every country. You say Japan and China and America and almost every country has this as a mandate. First, spending a lot of money in training the HR, and then making sure that they can bring the very best of AI from the globe to be there in their country to work on AI related problems. Okay, here you also see Pakistan. This is Pakistan, but it talks about the President AI program which he started. So we don't really, up till today, we don't have a national policy on AI. We don't have a national strategy on AI. And obviously, I know that no organization has a strategy, an AI strategy, in which they have the strategy, because you got to make a policy, and only then, once you have a policy, you can allocate budget. So that's how the government works. You say, this is the policy you approved, and gets approval through the Senate and through the National Assembly. You say, this is our national policy. Now we are going to spend money. Then you make programs based on the strategy that you have. And so that's why I said that even for your own self, for your own kids, for your own organizations, you must have a strategy. That this is what I'm going to do with my kids. And then, because now you have a strategy and you move towards that, and then you also spend your resources on that, your time and your money, and you're making sure that we are into that. So how AI is impacting? AI is about rethinking, and this is what we are going to try to achieve in this course. That can I make you to rethink everything we do, that how it is to be implemented using artificial intelligence, right? So this is what the world is doing. They're just rethinking everything. It's more philosophical. It's more philosophical, that can you rethink about the way you run enterprises, the way you run industries, the way you have human resource, and all the supporting technologies. You got to just rethink, and this rethinking is very key to AI, that you got to rethink. And how do you rethink? Okay, so and there will be a project in this course, and where we see that whether we have achieved, this target, that we are not just copying anybody. We're just saying, okay, we are just rethinking in terms of AI. We understand that how basically the same definition, that you find out a problem that requires thinking, perception, and action, and then taking that problem, making a model, then making representation, then finding out all the constraints, and then actually selecting an algorithm. So if we can do all of this, it means that we have achieved the learning outcome of this course. If everybody in this class could actually do this, then I would consider that we have achieved the target. So this class is not just about learning this technique or that technique. It's about learning of this rethinking, that how we rethink about the problems, because that's what is important. Okay, rethinking is important, and then not only rethinking, say, okay, this can happen with AI. No. Then you got to say, okay, this is the model. So this is the model we should use. This is the representation that we should select. So we are going to spend a lot of time in making sure that we understand how we represent a problem and the data mathematically. So in second week. So this is how it's about rethinking. So let's see that how this rethinking works, how the classical AI works, because people have been just doing this for years. So if you look at human intelligence, okay, so human intelligence, and even you think about our life as professional, okay, once you are 3.5 years old, your kid is 3.5 years old, you are worried about him and you are sending him to a school. Okay, 3.5 years old, you go send him to school, and you're just spending a lot of time, a lot of money on his education, right? So he's learning something. Then he gets into a professional college. Again, you spend a lot of money for him to actually learn some professional knowledge, because that's how he can make a living. And then he becomes a professional, and then he practices, he gain experience, and then he is just solving problems, which requires thinking, perception, and action. Okay, that's what a professional does. Or whether you're a lawyer, or you are an engineer, a computer scientist, a doctor, a nurse, or whatever who you are, actually you are solving problem that requires thinking, perception, and action, and that you are getting trained, you're getting experience. So for example, this doctor, a patient comes, he knows that if there is an issue, he needs to get the x-ray of the patient, he needs to have his vitals, and he needs to ask questions. Okay, and then based on what he has studied from the textbook, from the school, so a lot of learning he has done in school, 5 years of education, of anatomy, of this or that, and the training he got as in the hospital, as and then his experience, his 2 years of experience, and 5 years of experience, and 20 years of experience, and based off all of this, with his human intelligence, he is going to diagnose that what should be done with the patient. Okay. And now what AI is trying to do is, AI is attempting to replace this person who has spent his life in doing all of this. Okay? That's what really AI is trying to do. He is trying to replace a human who is trained to solve problems that requires thinking, perception, and action. With all the textbook that he has learned, they are trying to make the AI to learn all those books. The training he has gotten, so they are trying to put all that training which he has, not only him, but all the doctors in his field. So depending upon how much data, annotated data you have, all the training also in the models, okay? And then you just test it to make sure that yes, whether you can replace this person or not, okay? And then so you get data of many patients, many doctors, and this is the annotated data where we know that this is a good doctor, he has prescribed this on this, he has prescribed this on this, he has prescribed this. And this has gone into your database as a training data, and you partition it into training and testing data, and then you are training your model, training your algorithm, and then your algorithm is kind of working. So this is, kind of philosophical as well, but this is how the classical AI works. Okay, you got to have a data, especially the machine learning. You got to have a lot of data, and you can just train a model, and then it just takes over and started doing what a human was doing, an expert was doing. So you have a trained model, and now the artificial intelligent algorithm can take over. Like augmented AI says that it does not really take over. Still you need somebody to look at what AI is telling you. Okay, that was the augmented AI is. So that people are liking it because they are just reducing the work of a person. So one of my students was, and I'll try to arrange his lecture as well here. He works for Amazon, and he is also working on generative AI. And he said their marketing department tasked them to respond to customer emails, okay, by automatically responding to customer email. And AI could just read the email and respond automatically. And he said about 80% of the emails they can respond now, not humanly, but by a program that it'll just try to understand. And it was very accurate because they trained that model on the data, on all the emails the customers has been sending and being responded by humans. So that's what the AI is all about. That's what people are thinking creatively, giving target to their technical people that this is what they want to achieve. The marketing wants to achieve this, the finance want to achieve this, and then they just give them a task and they try to achieve the objectives. So this is a philosophical view, is right from once you are 3.5 years old, even you younger, like you start making them, read letters, A, this is B, this is C, and you make your kids go to school, learn, train, and then now there is a threat that perhaps all that knowledge is not required, okay? Or some of that knowledge will not be required. Some of the professions will just go away, for sure. Okay, some of the professions will just go away. Okay, so because if you think about this whole entire life is about this, that you go, you study, you get trained, you practice, you get experience, you ride in the career, and one day you die. Okay, once you die, everything finishes. So there are people, good doctors, they are not there. There are good artists, they are not there. There are good poets, they are not there. There are good writers, they are not there, and nobody can actually mimic them. Nobody, you will not find another Faz or another Shakir Ali or another Picasso, or it's just they are not there. But because such a unique thread that they have in their life, that they are just not there. Okay, so AI, once AI takes over, it just remain there because these are the algorithms. The AI has gone through the same route, but as definitely is taking over a number of professions. Okay, so artificial intelligence is about a difficult task or a repetitive task or a task where you're spending a lot of resources, and then the whole route that you are going. But here I must just highlight one thing which is very important. That is, sometimes I have seen that first we make a task which is very easy to do. We make it complicated, and then we solve it. Right? And this happens a lot. Especially, I have seen many students doing this. They make a problem which can be solved simply, and also in industry. It's a very simple solution. You make it complicated. Okay? Why? Because you are not putting your thoughts into the problem, making the model, making the reference right. Okay? For example, that you want to study the solar system. Okay? And if you think in terms of Earth, okay, that you are the Earth, but everything is revolving around the sun. Okay, the model gets so complicated. A model gets so complicated because look at this, because things are just revolving here and there, and it is so difficult to model a problem which can be simply modeled. Because you see this, it becomes so confusing that only because your reference is not right. You are trying to solve a problem standing at a place which is the wrong place. You're seeing a problem and your reference is wrong. And because your reference is wrong, if your reference is right, it becomes a simple problem. Though you are on the earth, but you look everything from the perspective of sun, that everything is revolving around the sun, and the problem becomes a simpler problem to visualize and solve. Okay? So the models I have seen, I remember like a PhD student coming to me, he had like many publications, and after understanding what he has solved, I drew a simple logic having like 8-9 gates. I said, use this and it will solve the same problem. And he would not believe me. I said, just go back and run this problem here and it will work 100%, I know. So you have actually made a problem very, very complex, and then you have solved it, then you have published it, which is fine. But you must know that this is the problem, this is the solution that you have actually come to. So sometimes we just make something very, very complicated, just unnecessarily. So this is how I have planned that in some cases we can have a 50-minute class and 10-minute break, and another 50-minute class and 20 minutes break. Or we can have a 1.5 hour of class and 30 minutes of break. Okay? And because it's a 50-50-50, so 3 credit hours mean 50-50-50. So it's up to you. We can take like 10 minutes and 20 minutes, or we can continue and do a 30 minutes break after 30 minutes.
30 minutes is okay.
So we go 30 minutes into the class. Chal. So we go to 30 minutes in the class, and we'll take 30 minutes break. Okay, so so now so once we talk about AI, mostly these are the 3 problems which AI has been solving. One is the classification problem, the other one is the regression problem, and now is this new thing which is the generative AI, that it can actually generate new data. So let's now see historically AI mostly solves classification problems. So those who have taken machine learning, and you already know this. Okay, so we will perhaps not spend too much time on this, but still let me just because this is important, that AI, the classification problem is simple, that you have this AI algorithm which is a classifier. For example, in your Yahoo or Gmail, or even in your company's email, you have this spam classifier that will just classify the email which is spam and an email which is a valid email. So it'll just do the classification, and it'll send the spam into the spam folder and a valid email to your inbox. So this is the classification problem. We've got to figure out, and usually for many classification problems, there are just 2 classes. You say this is class A, this is class B, and so you have a classifier. Sometimes even the simple classification is so difficult to achieve. Okay? Because there is no just a line which you can just draw. Even the spam processing is also a very complex problem. Okay? Sometimes your valid emails would go into the spam folder, and sometimes your spam emails will get into your inbox. And so even the simple to look problem is sometimes it's very difficult to solve, because there are no distinct features that can just classify it. Okay? And then, for example, this is also, there's a paper where people have been trying to find COVID positive or negative from the X-rays. So there are many publications, and this is one of the publications which was published in the Radiology Journal. But what I wanted to highlight is that a classification problem, that you have this data, which is the X-ray, and then you want to classify whether it's COVID positive or COVID negative. Okay. But even more difficult problem is where you need to have a multi-classes classification, where you have more objects and you got to classify them. Right? So means that the decision boundaries, they become really complex. If they are not like straight lines, it becomes a complex problem to solve. So in our lab here in CASE, we have an AI lab which is headed by Dr. Yasir Jan, and we are trying to solve this problem for a toll collection system. I'll show you the work that he has done, very interesting work, because usually it becomes a simpler problem if you have a camera which is seeing the complete view of the road. But usually they have a camera which is just installed to take picture of the driver, okay, and they want to use the same camera. And now they want to do the classification. It becomes a difficult problem because you are not seeing the whole thing, okay? So it becomes a very difficult problem to solve because you are using the same camera which is taking picture of the driver. So here is the video. As you can see, so this is the camera they have, so it does not have the complete view. And so this is, if you see, it says truck 2, so this is another truck, so it is and so this is so you have truck 3. Now there is a car, so I'll say there was one car, then there's another truck, and so there is another car. So this is a multi-class classifier, and what it is trying to do, obviously, to replace a person who actually is sitting looking at thing and then saying, okay, this is the amount of money you have to pay, and now it can be done automatically. And now there may be just one person looking at 12 different lanes, because now you don't need a person to physically check and do this, an algorithm, and again you have to see that trying to use the same infrastructure is important, that you are not telling them, okay, we are going to have another infrastructure, we'll put these many cameras or these cameras here. Just saying, oh, the same camera, let's try to solve this problem of the toll collection. So it's interesting work that is happening here. This is also something which I once was trying to solve. It's like you got a human. I have seen it even in Kohinoor textile mill, where they have actually people. They have a big table and they make 10 people stand on one side, 10 people stand on another side, right? And then they have person one is pulling the textile, the cloth that they have just manufactured, and everybody is just looking from morning till evening on the cloth and finding out if there is a defect. And whenever there is a defect, they just mark it, okay? And they are just humans that they are doing this job. This is insane, So these are the things which AI can really help to improve productivity, to remove human factor, and to make them do something which is more useful than this, okay? So obviously here, and it's also very interesting, I saw this is a paper, it's a published paper, which says that the sweetness of a mango depends upon its density. That heavier the mango, more sweet it is. I never knew this, okay? So they have all this data. Okay? This data which shows that if it is more sweet, okay, if its density is more, it is more sweet. So now for the classification, this is the experience that you got to weight it, and somehow you got to find out its volume. Okay, you got to know its length and width, and so you got its volume, you got to compute its density, and based on the density, and you may just see the other defects, and you can have a mango classifier which has this whole system where the mango comes in. You take a picture, you weigh it, and it just classifies it. And then it goes and it drops into a bin where it has to be based on its quality. So this is a classification problem. The other, which is a more challenging problem in many cases, is a regression problem. Okay, regression is where you have to exactly tell a value. It's not the classes that you are in this class, you are in this class. For example, Pak rupee to US dollar. Okay, so if you want to do a forecasting that, and people are saying it'll be 250 rupees, for example, after a few months, and sometime it went to 320 rupees. So people are betting, a lot. Mostly your fortune you bet on people who are doing forecasting for you. This plot will go up, the gold will be this, the dollar will do this, okay? So mostly people invest on the forecasting, okay? We also, I'll show you sometime, we made, for Bitcoin, we develop a system which can do high frequency Bitcoin trading, okay? Based on the forecasting, based on the way, and it is high frequency means that you can invest every second, okay, every 5 seconds or every minute, and so just see a little variation and you invest. So people do high frequency trading because it is automatic. So you can use AI tools to do high frequency trading. In few milliseconds, based on the currency, the way it is going, you can make money. But if you have a very, very strong AI algorithm, they're really, really fast because you are on wireline. You sit on wireline and you're just analyzing, and then you are automatically investing. So I'll show you the platform that we made. So this is, I have also, like, in this course, we will be actually developing a lot of code, but you won't be writing any code. You will only be generating it through AI tool, and then you will be just running it. So I actually generated, I'll show you in a while, I generated a predictor, a time series predictor, and then I put the dollar value in it. The dollars, the way it is changing its value every month, and then I predicted that how dollar is going to behave. I'll show you those results. Okay, so that's what the purpose of this course is, that you should actually able to generate code, because now AI can help you to generate code, and then actually run it and see that this is how the algorithm is working. Okay, so so this is the regression. You have seen it, like usually this is wrong, because sometimes you cannot just every time you say Pakistan is winning and then you find out Pakistani losing the match, because so for many problems there are so many different variables that people have yet not able to model it correctly. It is not the forecast is wrong, but they have not modeled it correctly. There's so many factors which are to be factored in. We are doing a project just after this class. I'm going to Lahore for a kickoff meeting where we are doing S&OP, sales and operation planning. So we have the data for a product for a company in America, and where we want to do the forecasting, their sales forecasting. Okay, so that they can give target to their sales people, and also to run the supply chain management, because they know that this is how much they are going to sell because of the forecasting. And that forecasting requires a lot of external factors as well to make the model right, and this is important. And that's what the constraints and the input and the representation. If you must miss something from the model, for example, an airline wants not to waste any food for the customer, because usually they have an option whether you want to eat chicken or a beef or vegetable, and usually they find out everybody say I want to eat chicken. Okay, so they end up wasting a lot of food. But if you really make the model right, you know what type of people sitting in there. Okay, are they Asians or Pakistani or this or that, what time of the day it is, and you know, they can make this model very perfect, and they can basically make sure that they are optimally running their food business. So that's all they want. They want that, they don't want any food to be wasted, because currently they're wasting a lot of food. And how? Because you know that yes, you can actually model it. This is something definitely you can model it, provided you don't miss anything. You just put everything in the model. Usually these models will not give you correct answer because they are not factoring in everything. Okay, they are just based on the time series values. They are saying if it is 8 runs and over, or 10 runs and over, or 12 runs and over, so this is the score they think that is predicting. Stock prices prediction, really, because it's also especially for cryptocurrency, even Elon Musk says something, the cryptocurrency will go down. So there's many factors what people are saying. Is there any statement outside? Okay, so there's so many things that basically are to be enter into the model to make sure that you model it right. So but if you are only working on the data, then you have a simple regression, and then you can predict that how the trend of the data is. But this usually is a very floppy model, which is only looking at data and not looking at external factors, because as I mentioned, most of the time there are other factors which are affecting the trend, and if you factor those in, then you can basically make good predictions. So mostly classical AI or the machine learning has these two set of algorithms. A classification where you put a data into a class, a sample comes, you say it is spam or it is not spam, it is COVID positive, it is COVID negative, it is a truck or a car or a bus or a motorbike. Or you got to give a value, you got to predict, and you have to be a precise value. This is, for example, the weather forecasting has matured. They have factored in everything. They have very good models. They have radars. They have sensors. You know, so it has really perfected. Okay? In most of the countries, it is going to be rain. it will rain for sure. Okay, so they have perfected the forecasting model. But for others, they are still struggling because you got to make sure that you have everything in it. And then that's what is happening in the world, that there are, for example, this climate change. So I was in Saudi Arabia, and I was the only person who was invited from Pakistan in the Global AI Summit. Okay? So there was this lady from Caltech, and they were making this climate change model. And that requires humongous amount of computation and storage. To make some realistic climate change models, but still they can model it, but it requires a lot of resources, and that's what she was saying, that and with these resources it will take so many years to make a model. For example, this ChatGPT, if you just use a GPU machine, it would take perhaps 412 years to train a model on all the internet data. 412 years, because nobody has 412 years to wait for the model to be trained. So that's why they spend a lot of resources. So the training actually has costed them $50 million, just one run of training, right? So because of the compute, because of the resources, and because of then the power that you take to run those. So this is where the AI is moving, okay? And that's why it's becoming out of reach for us, for Pakistan, that because of the humongous computational power and the storage that it requires to do some meaningful AI today. And that's what something we need to understand. Okay? So these are the two problems: classification and regression. Okay? So let's start now learning about the most exciting, which is the generative AI. So what is generative AI? And this is what actually I generated. Okay, I said Mona Lisa eating ice cream. So there is this generative AI tool, which for free will only give you a little. So this is Delhi 2, which is open AI tool for people to experiment. If you pay, you can get even better images and results. But if you don't pay, so it'll only give you limited access to, because prompt processing is also very expensive. It's also the second thing we need to understand. These companies are spending a lot of money to process a prompt. I think it is $0.2 million a day for your queries to be processed. Okay, these things are taking a lot of money, and they're giving it to you for free just to make sure that you get adopted, and you know that these are useful tools, and then they'll ask you to pay. Okay? So Mona Lisa eating ice cream is this. Okay? So almost you can write anything, and it'll generate an image for you. It's so amazing that how can just it happens? Just look at his hand, look at the ice cream in his hand. How can AI draw with such perfection the same Mona Lisa, her same hand, and now holding an ice cream? Okay? This is amazing, and people really don't understand how it is happening actually. This is the second important thing, that people don't understand that how it actually is happening, that no matter what you write, it'll just generate. So I said Donald Trump in India. Okay, so it generated Donald Trump in India. So you can almost whatever you want to write, you just say, and it'll just generate that image. And here is how many people you know. I put my picture in so that at least you know one person. But interestingly, in all those pictures, there is only one real person. And all are just generated by AI, okay, who is me. And all are generated by AI. Okay. So if you go on this is a thispersondoesnotexist.com. Okay. So you click on this. Every time you click on this website, it'll generate a new person for you, which does not exist in this world. So every time you press, it will generate a person who does not exist in this world. And it looks so real. Okay. How can they can generate something with so perfection, okay, that just looks real, and that's amazing. Okay, so we have still. So let me go back.
This person doesn't exist.
How we can say that?
Yeah.
Because it is generated by AI model. Okay, and shortly I'll show you, maybe once we get to this, that how it is generated.
No, so okay, but maybe it is not.
Maybe somebody who looks similar, but it is not picture of a real person. This is important.
No,
it is generated by an AI tool.
No, my question is that whether it is generated, but how we can say that with confidence that this person is not existing? What is this site? What is the benchmark, and how they can say that with confidence we can say that this person, although it is generated by AI,
yes,
that doesn't mean this is not.
Yeah, because the reason is, I'll tell you the reason is that once you make a model, you are in an infinite space, even if it is 3-dimensional. Okay, so every person is a point in this infinite space. Okay, because of the features, and there are so many different features. So you are a point in space. So what it is doing, it has like so many pictures, and from those pictures they know the points which are not in space, at least in their database. So they create a new point in that space, a new point. So all these pictures definitely are not there in their database. Okay? It's not there in their database. It is another point in space which they have generated through the model. So generative AI is about learning the distribution. Okay, once it learns the distribution, it can create another point. And once we cover the generative AI, we'll spend more time in just learning that how actually this happens. Okay, but and that's how it is working. And we will see a few more examples.
A public address, but someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele. This is a dangerous time. Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet. It's a time when we need to rely on trusted news sources.
This is not Obama who is speaking. Okay, now you can say, how do you know it is not Obama who is speaking? Definitely he is not speaking. So this is another guy who is actually speaking, and they have actually modeled it as if the Obama is speaking. And then this is like another amazing work. This is where there is an MIT have like this short, very focused course, and they could make an image to speak, one frame of an image to speak in his or her voice. Okay, so this is.
Hi everybody, and welcome to MIT 6S191, the official introductory course on deep learning taught here.
So look at this. So you can have just from a video, you can create different type of characters. Okay, so the cartoons, and I attempted doing this way back in 2000, where I gave an undergraduate project to students. Like, let's have a library of cartoons, and then have this person doing different things, and then creating a cartoon out of that. But now the generative AI can actually do this. This is a very famous artist named Van Gogh, and you can actually give it a picture, an image, and ask the generative AI tool to paint it in the style of Picasso or Van Gogh or anything. It has learned that. Okay, now Van Gogh and all these people have died, but now the generative AI is keeping them alive. And here is this is the most famous painting of Van Gogh. Had this mental disorder, and he was put in isolation, and there through the window he would see the sky and paint, and people were amazed at how perfectly he has painted all the stars and their location. And scientifically they have proved that these locations are so perfect and so concise. It's a very, very expensive painting of Van Gogh, which he wanted to repaint. He said it's not a good painting. This is the most famous painting. But now with his style, you can paint New York. You say, paint the New York skyline in his style. Or you can say, this is Mona Lisa, paint in the style of this artist or this artist or this artist. This is, again, a very famous painting. And you can say, complete this, add more into this. So the generative AI has added a complete kitchen around that painting. Okay, so it was not there, but just that you can extend something. You can have generative AI to design a flower shop for you. Okay, and you can tell it, I want this to be vintage looking, old looking, and I want it to be painted in white. So I'll just design it for you. Okay, you say this is the guy who is actually can, so on YouTube it can just, it's talking, it's all generative AI. It's a news reporter. You must have seen like these new reporters are, let me just close it because, okay.
Lec1's avatar company Synthesia recently.
So, let me know. So you can just click and see it yourself. But you know, this is how and this is most amazing. I don't know what is going to happen to architects. And that's what we got to be watchful. Like you just give it, this is your need, and you just dynamically keep changing the area, the space. It'll just fit the design, your requirements into making an architectural drawing, okay? And creating even the 3D and everything. So definitely that just makes me believe, especially for our kids, and you know, so there are professions that are going to just go away because of these tools, and they have actually captured the creativity of so many architects, the creativity of so many artists, the creativity of so many writers, that they can just mimic them. You ask them, okay, do this, they'll do that. Okay, so the world is going to be very, very challenging. Living life in that world will be very, very challenging. Okay, and we can see that. So this is what I generated. I said generate this in Vengu style, and it has just generated. This is also very interesting. I said Google soup. So what it has done is the Google, it has made it into a soup, and this yellow looks like corn, and it's hot, so it has melted the Google sign, and so it could just create something out of our imagination as well. That it has just created something. You can just give a sketch and say create a human who should look like this sketch. So it'll do that. So sketch, they'll do that. You can actually give your picture and you say, make me an emperor in this age and of a pharaoh's age. So it'll just convert you. So it's and all these production designers, I don't know what will happen to the people who do the productions and designs, and so this is for the production designers and and this is what we are going to do a lot in this course, asking AI to generate code. Okay, this is a code what I generated. I said generate a code in Python which can do a time series prediction with some input data. Okay, so it puts some data which you see here. So this is a data straight line, and then because it's a straight line, it has predicted this. So very right prediction, like, so the code generated through this has actually given me the prediction. Now, only thing I need to do is I removed this array of numbers and put it the dollar to rupee value. Okay, so I did that. Okay, you see this is what he has created. Like it says, okay, this is what the rupee is going to be. That this is 290, around 285, $90. So you can basically generate the code, whether you know the coding or not. Okay, that's the most amazing. That's why I believe that everybody can learn AI, because you only need to learn that. Okay, this is the technique. Then go to the tool and say, generate me a code for this. Okay? And then just use it. So that is what we are going to practice in this course. We see that without writing anything, how much can we learn? How much actually we can do the assignments, what other people are doing, spending months and months and just generating through AI. So this is, you know, because I learned calligraphy, I know the calligraphers, this profession has completely died in Pakistan. Okay, there used to be calligraphers as a profession, who spent their entire life in writing books and newspapers, and now you know that every editor has a font which you can just select and type it yourself. So this is something which is going to happen to other professions as well, and that's what we need to be watchful. And because everybody is investing, every country. I was in Dubai and then Saudi Arabia, and everybody is just pouring in money into AI. And that is also an opportunity for us to capture some of the opportunities which is happening not in Pakistan but around us. So we will also keep discussing the startup ideas. There are startup ideas, find out who is funding startups, who is giving you funding R&D, and send your ideas there to get some money so that you can just, because people are heavily investing in AI. Every country is investing in AI, and they are just searching for global talent. They are not just. जी.
Sir, I have a question.
जी.
सर आपने ये जो अभी बात सारी डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि बहुत सारे प्रोफेशन इस वजह से इफेक्ट होंगे, तो अगर हम कहें कि सब लोगों का ऑब्वियसली इंटेलेक्चुअल लेवल सिमिलर नहीं होता, सब लोग एक चीज़ मतलब कि अगर कोई चीज़ अंडरस्टैंड करना चाहें, नॉट एवरी पर्सन कैन अंडरस्टैंड एवरीथिंग, तो फिर हमारे लिए क्या हम उन लोगों को अल्टरनेटिव देना चाह रहे हैं जो कि बेसिक जॉब कर रहे हैं, जैसे आई वर्क इन ऑटोमेशन कंपनी, तो अगर हम ऑटोमेट करते जा रहे हैं थिंग्स को, तो जो लोग वो बेसिक टास्क परफॉर्म कर रहे थे तो उनके लिए हम क्या अल्टरनेटिव प्रोवाइड
जी आप सही कह रहे हो. ये दिस इज द चैलेंज व्हिच प्रिसाइजली व्हाट आई वाज डिस्कसिंग, दैट व्हाट अल्टरनेट. फॉर एग्जांपल एलन मस्क सेज that most of the people would only get a scholarship to live. Okay, everybody will get a scholarship because there will be no job for them to do in this world, so they will just take a scholarship, eat, be happy and die, and this is what his vision is about the world, that the way the AI would take over, as you mentioned, that many professions, then what this whole population will be doing, and that's definitely is something which people are really worried about. So there is a whole group of people, okay, who are staunchly against this generative AI. They're very against on this generative AI. They have been asking governments to curb this trend, to stop this, and this must not happen. And they are whole, like the playwriters, the movie writers, and they are really worried about their jobs because they can generate stories, they can write poems, it can write articles, it can write letters, and software computer scientists. If like it is writing a code for you and the code is almost perfect, then who is going to hire a computer scientist? Okay, obviously, and we'll experiment this in the class, that AI is generating all of it. I even don't know Python, I don't even know Java, I don't know any programming language, and still I can write a program. Okay, on one point it is very good, because anybody is enabled now to just write, like the calligraphy, that anybody can just do the calligraphy because it is a font in your all processing editors. So this is really the challenge, and I really don't know the answer to this question, but at least we need to be aware of what is happening in this world. Okay, and that is what we are trying to do, that we got to be aware of this. If everybody is making use of this, at least we should also make use of this, number 2. And number 3 is that we got to be worried about the future of our kids, and we need to know that in what profession should they go, and making sure that we don't put them into something which is ultimately going to go away. So so these are the things, but nobody has answer to these questions, and we will try to find one. So because let me just let's just now take a break, and we come back after 30 minutes, which is 2 and 5. So the people online, so please join us back, and we can offer prayers, and then if you want to eat something, you may, and then we come back after 30 minutes. Rahman Rahim. Let's so this is where we left, that definitely the world is going to change, and there may be questions where I don't have answers to those questions, that how and what should we do, but we just should be mindful of that. So now going back to the original definition of AI, where we said that AI is about solving problem that requires thinking, perception and action by developing models. So model development is very key. And then also, once you develop models, you say the representation has to be right, and the representation is of the data and of the model. So usually, once we are trying to make models in AI, many a times they are just learning. If it is about data, it is about learning their distribution. that how the data is distributed. Okay? We'll spend more time on this, but it's about how the data is distributed. And once we know that this is how the data is distributed, okay, and you have a model, as I was explaining, that this in entire 3D space, there are infinite many. So it's about like generating a model that learns the data distribution, that how this data is distributed, and then you can just throw away the input, and now you have this model which can generate new data. So this is all the generative AI does, that it tries to learn, and this is what they have perfected, learning the distribution. Okay, the probability distribution, they have perfected that they can perfectly learn the distribution, and once they have learned the distribution, they create more data into it. Okay, so generative, the chat GPT, and you could just ask, for example, here, for example, I have write a letter to headquarters to inquire about the dates for annual audit of the unit. Right? So it just generated very nice letters, amazingly generated, and I know many of you must have experimented on the platform, which is this chat.openai.com. So very nice letter it has actually drafted. I'm writing to inquire about the dates for the annual audit of our unit. As you are aware, it is essential to conduct a thorough audit of our unit's financial records and operations to ensure compliance with regulations and maintain transparency. And sometimes really you get amazed at how can basically it generate so perfectly, anything you ask it to generate. So generative AI, that's why it's just becoming, and people don't still understand how it has actually generated all of this. And once we get into the theory, and you'll get more amazed at how this whole thing actually works, that the way it is actually generating, and how it's just automatically just keeps generating something interesting for you. And it's dangerous because nobody knows what it is going to generate, right? Because nobody has control over that this is the content it will generate. Nobody has any control. Nobody knows what it has learned actually. And there is absolutely no way for anybody to know what it has learned. Right? The second important thing. The third thing is it has learned from the internet, which is already a biased internet. Especially it is biased about it's Islamophobia, it's biased about certain caste and creed. So from where the internet has learned, okay, we hardly have any content on the internet about Pakistan. Hardly. Or there is hardly any positive content about Pakistan on the internet. It's all about, if you ask that I am an Australian and I want to visit Pakistan, give me suggestions. And first of all, it is going to say, check the travel advice. Okay? Because this is what it has learned from the internet. So from us, the challenge is, like all these language models are learning and learning and learning, and people are spending millions and millions of dollars. But from where they are learning, so that perspective is not good about us, about Muslims, about, So that's another challenge which we got to face, because we have never put our content on the internet. Hardly any positive content about Pakistan. So it's becoming very, very challenging for a country like us, because it has no sentiments. This guy has no sentiments. It cannot think otherwise, like it cannot think, it has no sentiments. It just generates something, whatever it has learned from the data. And the second important thing is that if we want to make use of these tools, we got to feed in our data into this. Right? And sometimes that data is very sensitive to our organizations. For example, if I want this tool for Ministry of Interior, if I want this tool for the Supreme Court of Pakistan, or the justice system, so I have to feed in a lot of my data into it, and only then it will able to generate and help me to just generate cases, generate suggestions, generate articles, write poetry, write music. So it just can do almost anything that you can just train it. So another challenge is, how can we localize these tools for our use, as a country and as a region. So these are the two big challenges that I shall be talking a little more about. So once we say generative AI application, it is about the text, it is about the code that you can generate, and the images and the speech and the videos and the 3D animations and almost everything. So everything that is creative to human, like that's what you learn. can be done by these tools, and it can learn, it can paint, the paintings, it can generate paintings in the style of the most famous painters. And
So when you use the word learn, what does that specifically mean? Because we are actually feeding data to whatever the machine is or what the algorithm is. So what exactly learning means in this context?
Yeah, learning means that, for example, for the text example, and I'll show you an example about the images and faces. For the text, they have fed it the entire internet, the data from the entire internet, like gigabyte of information into the system. Okay, what it does is that it tries to basically learn the association of a word with others. Okay, association of a word with others. Like if you put, let's say I wrote audit headquarter, so it will say audit and audit inspection. Okay, headquarter means there's somebody who's senior. So it just start making collection of words, okay, and those collection of words can generate the next word that should come in the sentence. Okay, so it has learned through all the internet that after this word should appear, and then it has like a memory. It's not a memory which is only looking 2 words or 3 words. It can look after 300 words what has happened. So it says that after 300 words we have talked about Paris, I live in Paris, and then you are writing something, and then you say I went to see, I'll say Eiffel Tower, because it has learned that Paris means, if you are saying that you went to see, it has to be Eiffel Tower. So this is how it has learned from the internet that yes, Paris is Eiffel Tower. And I'll be showing you an example here, which is a very interesting example. And I have some idea to do something for the Urdu as well, because we don't have any such tool for Urdu, but we have it for English. So can we just very quickly make a short circuit and build something for our language, Urdu language? Let's see whether we can do this or not. Okay, so I'll be showing you an example. जी कोई question है आपका? Okay, so the
some information in ChatGPT. So can you hear me?
yes जी बताएं.
If you see some information in it and ask some questions from it, can it use this information for the future purpose?
Yes.
Like if someone else asks the same question, can it learn from the user also, or it only takes information from internet? I'm asking you for the perspective of ChatGPT.
There are two types of these algorithms. One is says by 2021 it has learned and it is not really updating itself. Okay, and the other one is where you can fine tune it. You can basically make it learn more. So we want to use those systems which can be fine tuned on our data. Okay, like Llama, the Facebook has an open source large language model, which we have actually downloaded. Okay, and we are experimenting on that. It can be fine tuned, or you have to retune the whole thing. That is very expensive. Retuning is expensive. Fine tuning is not that expensive. So once you fine tune, so then it learns, and then it becomes just part of it. And that is what we intend to do, that you take a tool which has learned from the internet, and now you make it learn from your own data. So it has a lot of learning already, and then you make it learn specific to your subject. For example, Ministry of Interior, for example, the Supreme Court of Pakistan. So it is using all the knowledge which has already learned, and over and above, now it is using the additional knowledge which we have basically fine-tuned it. And even how to, so prompt engineering, you must have heard about that how you basically prompt, how you ask question is also becoming a profession in itself, that you got to really do the prompting in a way that you get what you really want. And so these are some of the tools, and I'll be showing you even more, and we will be just getting exposed to most of the tools in this class. We'll be generating content, not only the code but the other content also in the class. Okay, we'll just try to make sure that next time this, because we have two networks, वो थोड़ा सा आपस में कुछ हो रहा है, but
Could you train ChatGPT on free, like only the license version where we can learn ChatGPT on our data?
Not ChatGPT, but there are other tools. ठीक है, which उसमें reinforcement learning type है कुछ, but I'm more focusing on llama. Llama can be fine-tuned. So and it is open source. So because it is open source and it can be fine-tuned, so we are just experimenting with llama, and I'll tell you what we are trying to do with llama in a while. So this is another assignment where I want you to be creative and generate an image using any text-to-image generative AI tool. So there are many generative AI tools where you give them a text prompt and it can generate an image. And I'll show you what I have generated in a while. So submit the image and also share it on WhatsApp group. But just share one image, please, because you can generate as many as you want. Just experiment and the image that you like, only one. So per student, one image on the group. Let us find out who generates the most creative image. So you can just, your imagination, you can just generate anything. You can say moon on earth, for example. So it'll bring moon on earth. So you can just say anything and it'll just generate an image. So these are the two tools which I have here mentioned. One is from OpenAI and gencraft.com. So I created this, okay, wilderness. So I actually write poetry. I'll tell you why. Just because I was trying to generate something which can depict the verses in this. जैसे वीराने में आ निकले हो, दिल की धड़कन कौन सुनेगा, दरवाजे जब बंद हैं सारे, दीवारों से कौन लड़ेगा. This one, last one is I have generated something. I'll show you. दीवानों से ही मिलते हो, मजनू तुमको कौन कहेगा. So I try to generate this. दीवानों से ही मिलते हो, मजनू तुमको कौन कहेगा. So it has just generated my friends who I meet. So obviously they all are crazy people. So nobody is going to call me crazy. So this is, it's so amazing that whatever you think, okay, and you give it a prompt and spend some time, it will generate an illustration for you. And remember, it's so horrible, illustration we see in our books, in Pakistani books, the Urdu book and Pakistani book. It's so horrible illustrations, but you can create so interesting. In an instant of, just in a few seconds, it'll just generate an illustration. If you have a story in your mind or anything, okay, so it'll just generate an illustration. So that's what I want you to do. You have a story, a creative story, and you want to generate an illustration. Use this tool, which I have to mention, and you find out yourself. There are many. And usually they have started asking for money, that you need to give some money, get some credit, and then it'll generate. But then there are still few free tools that you can use. Two I have mentioned, and you find others as well. The people are just coming up with these tools, I know a Pakistani researcher who has something similar for her. So okay, so this is also a good point where I transition to my personal academic profile, what I have been doing and how I relate it to AI. Okay, this is my first publication. My first publication was about a parallel mapping of backpropagation algorithm for mesh signal processor. जी अब आवाज़ आ रही है? आवाज़ अच्छा. Okay. So this was in 1995 when this is my first paper, and actually I went to MIT to present it, and I only realized after I went and presented the paper that really the people really took it very positively, very nicely, and many came to me because perhaps the challenge at that time was that though artificial intelligence was there, though neural networks were there, but people thought they are not realizable. They are computationally so intensive that nobody can use them. Okay, so my paper, my research was funded by Analog Devices, and I was working with MIT Lincoln Lab, where they were using an array of processor, a mesh architecture, where there was 8 by 8 digital signal processors in a mesh, and they were mapping some radar algorithms. So analog devices wanted me to map some non-military application on the same platform. Okay? So I mapped the backpropagation neural network, then I mapped the k-means clustering, then I mapped several other algorithms which were computationally very intensive. So I searched what is very intensive, and then I said, let me try. And the challenge was, this mesh was a single instruction multiple data. Like every processor has to implement or has to execute the same instruction, has to execute the same program. So then that makes the problem very challenging, because every processor, all 64 processors, got to work in lockstep. They got to execute the same instruction. And challenge was, once there was an if-else instruction. So in some cases, one condition is true, in other cases, the other condition is true. So how you implement conditional instructions and conditional execution. But so I did this and presented it in that conference. And interestingly, the topic of the conference was, are neural networks dead? Because everybody believed that neural networks are not going to live. Why? Because of the computational complexity. So even people who have spent their life in neural net, they were really angry on the topic of the conference, that why, like a neural network, an AI conference, why should the title be, are neural networks dead? Obviously they are not dead, that's why they are there. But the point is, like, people were so disappointed with neural networks, which today we know, the CNN and this, everything is around the same architecture, which is the backpropagation neural networks, where you are training the weights based on the errors. And so everything is around this concept, and where, as you can see, this is the array where I partitioned all my data, all the weights, and I made sure that all 64 processor can basically improve the and speed up the whole computation by 64 times. And this is today what we see as the GPUs. The GPUs are almost doing the same thing, because today they are all GPU machines, that there is thousands of GPUs working in lockstep and executing neural networks. And so I did that. It was in 1995, making sure that yes, I can partition an algorithm to make it work. And so our neural networks, that was the most interesting thing that I remember. And obviously we see that it has taken neural networks so many years, so that now everybody talks about them. So then another, so I'm just telling you the work that I have been doing. And so just to relate that, this is Dr. Durdana. Now she is in FAST, but she used to work for us in CARE, where we were developing an algorithm which can find the best path out of many options, okay, for a flying bird to take off and get to a destination. And then I extended her PhD. What if there are multiple flying objects and they have to have missions, and they got to go touch some areas and points, and then they need to come back. Okay, so so this path search algorithm are very core to artificial intelligence. You must have seen in Google, once you say, take me to case, for example, wherever you are, it'll show you the best path. Okay, and it'll show you some alternate paths as well. So path search algorithms are very fundamental to artificial intelligence. And path may be a physical path, like here and here, and it may not be a physical path. It may be just a path where you are spanning a tree, and I'll show you an example of that as well. So path search is also, once we said you have to solve that riddle, that was also, you need to use a path algorithm kind of, that you have to go and go through the tree that I have made, and you span the tree and find the best path to get to the destination. Okay, so the path search is very fundamental, and we shall be learning about this too. So we had many publications, and then we made it more challenging, that it has to be dynamic, and dynamic means that there is a path, and now you just are told that you cannot just take that path for some reasons, and then you got to have an alternate path, and then one of the bird is down, and somebody has to do his task as well. So making this whole thing dynamic. And modeling. So I have always focused on modeling, that if I can model it right, then I've solved the problem. So a lot of my focus has been since I started working, because it was always on my mind that they were making a model for the NATO forces to retreat from Persian Gulf. So they're making a model. So it was on my mind that yes, anything can be modeled. If it is modeled right, then you can solve that problem. Okay, so the modeling is very crucial. So we made a model where we have multiple unmanned aerial vehicle for cooperative path planning. So we extended her research in that. Then this is another of my PhD student who was doing his PhD from CASE, and he was working, and this is also, and now you see that artificial intelligence is not really something very small. It's big. Its spectrum is so wide. So he was working on swarm intelligence. Swarm intelligence is a technique where you throw many swarms, like people are learning intelligence from ants colonies, from bees, that if there is a food, and very shortly you will find out a colony of ants just following each other and getting to that food. Okay, so means that there is a mechanism that how they basically communicate with each other, and people have been trying to learn that and bringing that into the algorithm, so that the intelligence is everywhere. So they're just learning that intelligence, and so the intelligence is that you throw a lot of swarms, which are the agents, or which are the software which is self-executing in parallel, and you give him a goal, that this is the goal that you have to achieve. So everyone has its personal best. This is my best, and then there is a global best for the entire algorithm, and everybody is sharing, this is my personal best, I have achieved this, I have achieved this, I have achieved this. Let's say it's just a curve which everybody is going and trying to reach at the top. Okay, so everybody is sharing, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And so there is a global best. I say, oh, this ant has get to the maximum height, so everybody start moving towards the global best, and then ultimately everyone converges to that global solution. Okay, everyone's converges. So he was doing it on finding the number plate on a car. So that was his project, that the thesis that he was also working with some professor in Italy. His name is perhaps Stefano Cagnoni or somebody. So he was collaborating with that guy. So the idea was like with the in real time, we can just find out the location of the number plate, localizing the number plate. So you throw a lot of swarm on every frame you are getting, and all those swarms in real time could just get onto the number plate, so that you can find out localize the number plate and find out what is written on the number plate. So as you can see, there are many swarms on which you see on the number plate. Somehow the Siri ko kuch hua hai meri baaton se. So let me just. Okay, so this is his PhD thesis, and so this was the whole algorithm. This I have taken from his thesis. So most of these things are coming from the thesis or the presentations of my PhD students. So as you can see that and then we said, because once he was running this, it would take like few minutes to just run on one frame, run this algorithm on one frame. Let's say, I said, why not to basically implement it in hardware? So we took this algorithm and we put it on an FPGA, where we made several of these working in parallel, because once you are in hardware, you can make all of them working in parallel. So a lot of my work is in making very, very complex algorithms and finding out the parallelism and doing them in parallel. So then he could do like many frames per second. So he could have many frames where he's just localizing many cars. So very interesting work that he did and made many publications. It was Syed, perhaps he was from NBC or NESCOM. Then is something very amazing work done by Dr. Usman Akram, and he has done amazing work in machine learning and AI. He was and he is one of the youngest PhD. Once he completed his PhD, he was perhaps 25-26 years old. So this is also a very interesting story, and usually this is the second approach that I have taken, that I would never go for algorithms, I'll go for problem. I'll find and search problem. So we went to AFIO. Armed Force Institute of Ophthalmology, and we said, you know, he was looking for a PhD problem. And I said, let's go and find out a real problem. And we have in EME college, there was an MO who was an ophthalmologist. So he took us to the department. And there they said that we have a very challenging problem to solve, which is